So our topic today is, the first question will be about places in the community that moved or don't exist anymore. Do you remember any of these places? For example, the library, or the railroad, or Southwald store?
Oh, that's a good one you hit there. Railroad. Don't I hit? Kalista dadid, Nilin, not the chadiha. 100 years? 99 years? Even 100 years?
Nega quini just ni ot pilo wa katondello di taleji to second kanum so de a kilo we chinuna de kadasta just le daga St. Thomas and wahtan di St. Mansi yo le ya yo get to second kanum so daga de ya wet kan we indrante to kinona da kada ne just le daga to don satita south hall qui kan kwa ja kuinka nikä näitä eskalista tadi. Nityohtune. Ja niin kuin kun tekee jälleen tiika.
Näkö niin ehkä niin kuin kun tekee jälleen noksi vaikka hyvä keci. Kannossa on taukeakin ne jätti huntin. Sinua on tekadastakin vahe.
Näskin nuo nyt kan vaan kilo läslossat kai se on niin tiika jokna te wakloli. Vi kakalla tuni hoikaski viti. Tikan nuo South Hall tyda niin on hahkue. Tuossa kan nuo kilo viiva hunuudet tiga kyllä tio tejo se takata hundi tahko to hunuudet tiga South Hall kyllä tanu ahtion tässä no ton koeni kvio ja ne tanu sion sun tueni kosa jäälle on tai ja vehta kunta sitten tuossa kan no tiga na hundi tahko on kana te vidon de to te ni kiwi se levo olhan ne olhan ma ton sutita ne ja katsonit johto.
Tahnu dewesta kui dosketi. Tuossa niinkään nussodon haundon. Nuude dan dokan when saget tuta hadi dan ja.
We're just talking about there was a railroad track right where South Hall is now, near there. Negon pinnata kalua yatstikos Billy Whiskers kalua yatstikan tuolla nake kannumsat. Ne kaune.
Stänniben kuinlaali. Stänniben kuinlaali.
Tämä nekin kannukua.
Shepperton. George Shepperton.
Kannukua.
Kalla eni kaninas.
That's where that railroad track was in there. There was like a little station there where the train would stop. And if you were going to Muncie or you were going to St. Thomas, you could get on a train there. I don't know how much it costs, but they said that's what there was a train, like a little shack, I guess, where the train would stop. And South Hall, they said that. I heard that South Hall store, there used to be like upstairs you could, there was rooms that if you, like the people that worked on a train or railroad, they could stay there overnight. So that's the stories that I've heard. I never seen it because I think that was gone. No, the railroad track was still there when I was.
Yeah, it was there.
Yeah, I was there. Because when I was a teenager, we used to walk that tracks. Okay, isn't that and you say?
That's what Danny Knuckle dealers on it.
Oh, they used to sell stove,
Coal, yeah.
Right there.
Tigit kalistak that you know, Tigan. When you marry, you can not let go. Do it good in Lodi Hill, Teddy Naglek.
Ja, could go green elevator so you'd let soon it to the end.
You go.
Yeah, call it. What you want to London's, don't blacksmith shops, huh?
Well, ni matsigon enwa.
The John say?
Matsiwid to Jayonda, green meals.
Kellekin niitä kun Wednesday se kun chika kese tikan railroad no inu kwa cha chikito vila silosot ne chikejalle tikan washing machine waka ni no ali so many pieces Tommy's tunu ya hun tako tikas lans matsi ka washing machine yo ni no nesa la lesti sort ko jo waka lo no kwado matsia hon stay waking massage le tong wat tako washing machine negiti wahaya tanyonda ko sa des matsi wale te Teki no tika tuska yang tako washing machine bansi ta na to ta ito ni ka tunu ko sa hane tan de lo twa weken gaya le tika ta no we ni chi ka chak when we 18 ta ta ko sia ko no ka cha ka naklat
Quinta. Toen ik aan daar was, is al Paulus gelauw, kunt je ons laat die na niet weten. Elevators kan je uit. Zeg lekker dat nee.
Ja. Sponnisat kaskuikan kuanya gatakin. So sa tagat. When it winter show deal winter down no with the ton sailhan ganhan ganan dagatak.
neki ni no ko chi gaya le tika we ni ji so ko chi ka list bukan neki ne chi ka list so ko chi ka list ta ti tika chi ni cha ka to ja ke si yakini te gaya le tika sa de we grain we so to you yanda
Kan je ook eens kan je zeilen wa?
Ook zijn sawmill.
Ja, geen idee ja.
Goed nog wel. Toen je had dat in. Zo told je ons. Negatief goed nog wel aan. Dat is die aan daar.
Ja, doen skep ik garbage tegen de hond nog zijn ik ha.
Goed nog wel aan.
yakini te
Dat is galol hè tika.
Kale no one kwa to council hall ne kan so da dus no hot kan gisa asta council
Vaikka squijuk no ti lihun den vai.
dan we de hot kwa ta ka so
Don't quanta kallen.
Waar leef ze?
Latsen you nan da kwa so.
kana te ke ne si tos ni hot kan isa asta council kale de hot kwa ta ka so
Kallen nika. Ja, niet want dan is dat lodi het nog niks zo neem de lin holy rollers lodi na dan kwa. Nou squeeze aan te lang is het wat deel.
oh ya ka tika tos no ka ni hot ya lot ta so
Dan gaan te get zo knoe.
tent meetings
Zo je goed nog wel. Ja, je council house of zo. Nou nog wel.
Nee, ik weet het dan weet ik. RD kallen die Christian. Ja, daar ja, die dan when we die extension course en dat is dat. Dan don't we daar of zie ik ook. Dat die. Maar van die alle daar dat dan niet zo lang. Ja, zo.
kale no win ka tlaya ni library chi ne no kan what you dila to chi ne ti kan wa number 2 school to ka ya da ko trailer to ka sno ti kan Oneida Library la dina dong ya kwinte ya kiso chi de wa ho ni se ti kan wa ho na kla ko ne thone ke tri ti kan en ne number 2 number 3 school what este we nya le ko no to chi pa yo de language tika number 3 school to ha ne we on kili wa num don se wa don go to num library na wa don we ni wa don dia ko este da no ne to ne we de ko wi sta yo ha ni lo yo ki ka lyak se chi to yo ya what we ho don ni ha gwi space ko kinoksa committee wa hanilo wa don ki wi and ko ya da ken ha ya wi en chi ya ko kalya ke ka chi sta de kale yo tali ha mo wi tiki no tika tis kale doni os la ke tika tono ni ha ne se tika library chi no lena ti dat li honya ni tan ko standing stone nya ha
Tika ti no Dahuna Glagwahte.
Ne,
Netona.
ne to to gi no dahuna klago tigan. Number 3 school, Language Center, we do on that yes to na Standing Stone School.
Gea lagi nona number 3.
Tigan night what you dilla to Oneida Library.
Niga joku skakka
Ne.
kan soda kya yudlan yudawayata. Number 3 school. No.
Ne quinto dilla, quarto dilla.
Like a number 3.
To na way ni number 2 sa song. To na number tigan. Number 1. Kana kada number 4 katigan. Richard Wiakri to no so de.
Number 1 Katrina.
Number 1.
Netona number 2 at go in.
Number 4 Nagin Richard Tita.
Number 2 gini no ewa tata ikadayata. Nokchi negin 94.
Nego kung tu na siya dadalo tigan number 3. Yawatwin. Kahit dilla.
Segong wadong hunde.
Chinuan ano then sa huntkala te win number 3 number 4 katikan Richard ito nung sa dakta. So sa hadiye na winet winon Richard wilaw mo dyan chino ni honat nung so ni sa hadiye na winen ko chinyo taag winot winilaw mo dyan chino ni ganong so dakwat number 2 sa hadiye na diyo ni winen gilong wina sa hunagla ko giwa. Kaya le ni tika Baptist Church basement hunino ni makatawyado. Nika kalocho let's hati nung sisane tika nung sa se we number 2.
Ogadaya ganiti.
Tika iyo jala ha. Tunino tika tokadasa.
Toka.
Ha.
Dahnun. Chow no sonin no sa se yakwi tewaji. Grade 2 got grade 3 at County Sawi Singing New Lenton what's the
No ne. Nisa Salau au Johnson kaswine ya kolihonyani. Don't know. Ne tone tika na ta o jalo ne kyo tui tika na ako kui Mount Elgin kuya huana tani. Tona ne tona di wi tika na daycare no aso tung tika number 2.
Noksi nen hono sagai.
Oh nen honung sagai. Oh le o tung sisa ne ka no an ha se daycare. Tone gwena sa hatie nan akelon lau wa chile win. Ne wi lau mo siya no ni kan sot.
Ne tone nan Perry at the Tuahadaya. Society in
Oh.
Well, dokan ya saga talon long hot you.
Not that is
So number 4.
Ne winen.
Society in Richard. Laundromat ne tahadu.
Kale na inu ko number 1. Le winen et tone winen takla kale John wa ni no wi na ne. Not that is sunny says way ale ha kanung sort akin ya kanikete kanung sort.
Nego we can slow down with. Na which we not again road department ki wai. To get it we go de ko going to. Larry gus labas ne ton ne di ni na wago. Larry daxere. Ja, we don't have to flood in the you know, ne on jega.
To get in the hot and dead and Larry. Ford story no sawa.
Ja, yo de ko force.
To get your yoda ko na nok shaki de uni se jin se chia de no tan ad no sonin kan. Get on in it we will have do.
Well, they got this rocket to go. No, kan so that brick wheel schoolhouse. Mohoni se ko. Well, les ni no kete uska kan so. Sige ne no ya ko tayado ma.
Number 3 school we tell got your delotolat no son. Number 3. Ne kan ho kwali ne ka study na tong.
Negative.
Negative.
Okay, I think you need to get.
Ne ga diga chiga brick.
Lifai daksa de siya kato sa kolihonyani. Tanako kung kuhungwehne. Manon la tutundaya de na kilkyan tu Indian Affairs ne tonya ka no watati decision kuhungwehna luntanong tako. Quindante kinite ke etuante tonte jios las sedas ti. Neki noa netikan. Nikuna erikalos osota desi hawa kinite ka yung kwahlolichi. Tiaka no chika hawiti kan watati decision kuhungwehna wilwan luntanong tako. Quindante jios las sedas. Noksita kaya ka na awan tikalaso ni tawa. Wata yahte nesa sakoli hona kuiten jo sonyo na hundwa nunda. Ya kisanyo ya nahto ya teke yale.
Kalik winuan isi karwas ti joyan. Tawi son ni kana tayo da kwin. Naskan sakolil yun it.
Like teacher's residence.
Oh, teacher's residence.
Oh. Nuske wa.
Tanonit nen. Tamiatun hadi kayo ni nung kalaon.
Ne.
Are there any old gas stations that were once there that aren't there anymore or that have moved?
Huska kayo daw ni no hakwin. Manok flora. Hakalit sen evans.
Ja, du visste ikke, at han har Peter Smith.
Peter Smith, no.
Peter Smith.
There was a couple of stores that were, well, just little stores like. Sela di kanin sa kon walte kaniles mo pop ko sok ne kale potato chips lo.
Don't what Pinesa had it.
Yeah, there was just a couple of little stores that native people owned, like, but Flora store had groceries, even meat.
Yeah.
Hers was a regular store. That's where what you may call it,
Okay.
Dalton
Colette, not to at that corner. Colette, no what? La Peter Smith right across the road. That's what. Yeah, when you went in out there, like quanok milk and bread.
Ja, ik heb die gas station die gelezen.
Gas station.
Pinball machine. So
Jukebox.
It's where teenagers used to gather.
First game.
Kale. Tukyo kung tuwini ko tika na kilowin. Kale no on South Soul Kiwi, that was the main store at that time, and they sold everything. Material.
we now clean hardware.
Yeah, hardware even, because I remember when we built our little house, that's where I got propane heater. Paid by the month as soon as my family allowance would come in, that's where it would go. Pay off my stove, my heater. That was a good many years ago already. When did you know? 60 years ago. Because
When we lived on the res, we had a coal oil stove. We want to call this little to heat the house.
Noksi sakin tigel he sun haingali vajon again that's that what talan jokna hoht noksi yak we didn't gonna
I guess not gonna take ni hatung.
So our second question is, how did the adults and elders used to keep old records of stories or events? Was anything ever written down, or was everything mostly speaking and telling stories?
In their head. Yeah, my grandpa used to tell stories. He never had books to read. They just remember everything.
But you want to get to net no chika we no dia tati ko nya de wona not. But neki ninchin your chikela, but I guess it was all just verbal. a lot of stories were handed down just verbally. But there was writing because of the hymn books. Look at how old those hymn books are. Some of those hymn books are really old. And so there had to be somebody that did write, but at that time, it was written phonetically, not the way that we know it as Oneida writing system. It was written phonetically. The hymn books were written phonetically. They used to draw pictures, and that's how a story would be told. That's how I was told. Anyway, I've never seen it, but that's what I was told. Go. Ja, kjo nigelen do te wakat katonokchi o kano te kichenas do te tikas. Oh, that's how they would tell us by pictures. That was before. I don't know. Don't how we get chutahon dasam kan latilanal. I don't know the year or but I think there's a lot of people that I don't know how they wrote it. Like I know that it was written phonetically because from the hymn books that when I started singing in the choir, and I looked at it and I couldn't read it because I was taught the way we write now. So when I got the hymn book and I looked at it, I can't read this. But because it was written phonetically, it just written the way they heard it, and that's how they wrote it. They must have known their alphabets for them to do that, because at that time all the alphabets were used.
Residential school. They will put that up long.
That would have been in the early 40s, what?
When we late 30s, 40s.
Late 30s, 40s when the residential, Delgan residential.
I'd go when it alone, when it.
You got the guy
20s gets up, no, did that?
Huh? 20s?
No.
You got even one, you got two weeks, like you not let now. So we just don't know, so you know what you need. What I had.
Yeah, like we never only said you can. Say a lot, you wasn't Yakaskaya with foster care home, ticket tonu chikaha.
Sabi no na ka nungwa.
Chikayala tika sanulha wen sahanakla de chi. Tununya halo tika like Carl. Chidole sa yuwe hospital hui sa yuwe tanakla de wen sahwayate. Kayale neti. Oh. Neti ka pearl maskokaman.
Oh. Leave maskokaman. Pearl.
Oh. No stika dat we tok na yawane ba kono wakta kilo we mother got sick or she had to go to the hospital and she had little kids. That's where these kids would go until the mother got better and then they'd come home. And this couple stayed right in the house, and they were called foster parents at that time. And they would look after these kids till the mother got back, and then the kids would be returned. That building's been... And Carl. Kaya lagi netik. Haiwi yung payote Leonard shot. Tata yung dandi ta naklat wen. So that's I think your pretty chokan the it was naked between hymn books got your hiat. But the stories, like what George was saying, he's seen some of the pictures that they used to just draw to tell a story. I never seen it, but I've heard of it.
No, chị số cho tuy sao chị tôi đi số đông cho nó nhiều con nào đó đâu. Nên nên thì là chị như hospital chị ổn chị có vui như hàng con phạ cả. I know I was a 7-month baby. I was real little. Nitigo, koknati, ilanago yadi tanavit, nitudala ni nido tadis nisikoya nid kahlagi. My eyes were real dry. Nitigo ilanago yadi tawin doknati lo ya onukwat ne to yaha zote kala pone umduma o yangla.
Nipinala akasudes aksat kanala tahakakukun hachan. Neka tonia wonchi taku tahokakukun. Teka yaknati vitu yahonsan tela kahlage. Venisi jätte jo jänle no takakuken ne.
Nege nen hiji wakahlunga tikan hachin naria nega tikan saha naglade la dejant tuyahasa te doknate la kahlage. Nen ati yakin pidia kon ni hui no ha so ne ne won hakun hakununta ne tumisai ya go ditwan wala musaka lage hunate ne la deja tio hodun yetwala wiskona awan la kis ya kuante donske.
Että disen nyt sisanu kan la reaktsi kahja ton jokan kinisen.
Kini tekee sen voit katsoa.
Ja. Kun se kollen.
Ja, kydden, duotkat.
Noksi neikan pie son kwa noksi katahle viikalle niin kada hossade nada hossade kvintunu chikahawiin. Te kvini jotsi lo neja le jokna hohti. Kvina te wa gollen rooslan lana lagohada.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of it was just like what we remember what we heard and the elders telling us stories and telling us what went on or how this was done or what, and that's how they pass the stories down is just by verbal.
And what they saw.
Kono kyyti Bruce Lee adal. Negin couple months ago duotkat.
Nekan laga kwa disa.
So I guess that's how we nisenate sat katho. Villa dia talha villa chiwahati kaalat.
Nekvina akun hakwe sai ko yonda kun nechoknaste noksi.
Agodi ka toyo tu.
Aku ko yohto hinata tatawadian lika aku ko si ahot.
Chini huntuk.
I guess
So with that being said, you had nothing written when you were growing up. Do you see a need for Oneida people to know how to read and write in the language now?
When we talk niche, I do understand it. I pick knows it. Kadogani yo wa.
Well, I learned how to.
Noksi. What then? He didn't again on the stag. You were getting the score and again understand it. I did get it not noksi. Negwin couldn't to the yours and how do you understand it? To go Queen Bradley way a lad and how died to go to how did you go in order. Not yet could it so we here the hen. Just to say, I don't let it, that's what you could the whole election. We say to go sit. You'll let a year leading, we went doing got.
Agilogi ni. There's pros and cons in the written language, Oneida language. Like, if you didn't write it, you would have to remember it. But when you write it, you depend on it. That's what I would have. That's against, that it's good, but still, if you just heard it and kept it in your mind, in your memory, like Rose said, in your head, that it would be more beneficial because you would have to remember. Because now, when it's written, you can always go back and look at, oh, that's that's what it is, But so that, like I said, there's pros and cons, but I agree that it should be written. We sa hagilo we chikuna niot ka yet skwele ka nitya koya ha. Tikyo kwine niot yake hialak. That's how you're going to remember, and that's how you're going to depend on that. If you forget, well, I have something that I can go back and look. So that's good. The only bad part is that it's not, you didn't keep it in your head, but it is necessary in this time that it be written, because that is how we're going to keep the language going when we're gone.
Vagata ko ki nijin. I'm kill union against the Roxa San Hide Wahia Doji. Not sooner do de hadi negwila di wanuta. Wadungan shadon kalasuna northern.
Niki no nin he wanita takadaso chakayo dasit. Yakwini do kanes nya takunya ko na note. To wahia don sla la chairperson. All got no go then does that type. I looked at it, didn't know what it was, didn't know what. I can't read this. And I was their secretary. But and that's when I was told, he says, that's your first task. You're going to have to learn how to read and write. And it's not an easy task. Like, agilo kinita no Dios la kita tuni kay Dios la kita le na wa kweni agilo wit nyo le agilo na ke vian tehtanen hap kweni akyado wachin Dios no le ya ko talati kweni akyad
Noksi akyon tuni yotte katsa no nasa indestanen na shado ne gino ne nagha tindega weno non yoden sie her no ne non we what nyawil no chat de galati sangwichi ka hit.
And like I said, like the old people older than me, they knew how to write, but it was phonetically. And the reason why we write the way we do is that writing system was brought in the early 80s, late 70s. It was brought. And I remember I was already working at the language center. And I know the elders of the day, they were against it. They didn't want it because they were used to seeing it written phonetically. Don't know. Because I was taught the way we write now. And so all the three Hasana communities what Jakwatlanet Kanetonet Chikahawitis when which early 80s what Jakwatlanet Wisconsin no Tahane Kale New York no Tahane Kale gone to Tikale what Jakwatlanet to that go Wisconsin. Scare. Then Wahanilo etanji tonyochino yetili hunyan kwaksada sajin wanyochit wahiado wahandilo nechi kwana kwa 3 communities hadi gweni hadi wanano ne tagat okne dat chinen yuchit lo na deviante ton lo diksta hokuha phonetically but yo kwana ne hadi gweni ya hadi wanano tani yachi tani ne winechi no ni yachi ko deviante Negati tanona what tadili what tadili hoyan dazi now hadili hoyana tunechanga yato nalaji all 3 communities will be writing together and we can all read each other's documents or whatever. So that was how that writing system came into to be the way it is now, that all three communities had to agree. And like I was saying, it's probably in the early 80s that this came about. But I remember the elders, because at that time it was the elders that kind of ran the language center. They were like our boss. That's when Mercy and I were there. And then yung boss, like a language committee. There's a lot on the Jalui Diagnili Wakwa Oneida Choir. No salati ka nunca nahte untung gode. Hanilo sama don jet asnin hodon jaden hodon jet kalyak seneji. What is nili wakwa. But that was through the committee. They said that we could close the language center and go and sing, because that is part of our culture. And both of us were in the choir, and there was just the two of us working there. So whenever there was a funeral, we'd have to close, and the committee of the day said that, well, you get paid, because that is your job too. And they also told us, "Wahanilo, dat kasungka ya china dahle naze, la dinates ni jobs la ya." Anjat kan lati netas watalon watina we lodiksta switla esoskilan tarfiatalan dahlenas namen kale we tam monila tasjat kan lati nates ni ode tas watala nala esona telotili wayanda dios ni ante tanekiwa. That's how it used to be. Nesa la tone no what tadi hundian la Sloanin Council. Kana let was a nityohtune kanichi yane dissolve language committee. They never dissolved the language committee, because at that time the language committee don't kostin kontyohkwanoski tanone kwana ko kunkuhoe na the committee was all language speakers. And that was the reason why Council of the Day said that's the only committee you don't dissolve. And that was the only what committee we latiata. So nobody wanted to join the committee because there was no pay. They didn't have money. A language center didn't have money to pay like the community, like the committee's members would get an honoraria, but language didn't have the money. So whoever joined the language committee did it for voluntarily. And we always had all speakers, a lot of speakers, would be. So that was the reason Council said that was the only committee that would never be dissolved at election time. I don't know whether it's still like that or what but that was the policy made to that effect. And the policy too was that Mercy and I at that time would get time off and with pay if we had to go and sing. If there's a funeral, we had to go and sing, because both of us were in the choir.
Hasaljas kun juoni sagdait sion tunuchika ha.
Well,
There was sundagusquin talinon hakalen.
Yeah, we could take 3 days. But we never used to, we just took the day of the funeral, we just took that day.
Tanon tunuchika ha win ladinon ha. Mas minasun tudundasan gastin yale ayo.
So that there's a queen out there. Yeah, we used to sing all night. Look, Chiquanijan, they need to get yadalo. Takano, don't you go call your chick now? Kayani was and yours like it's an chickadal to get the lati. No chinigi tai, Kalaya Chanjiwa got color, and near Takwini, to near Chitos like Liwa, which you don't I can't reach those high notes anymore. So I
know just that.
Yeah.
Ladi digan kun todiyon sa gada.
Imne sala so chi ladi jam kat hatti kilawita hunjada. And they put a call out last year they put a call out for young people to join the choir. Never got any response. So.
When they what don't his
Sao chok thaya.
lad.
No gwin wa ni at garden an wa ni kalen arlo no ni nela de cho no ne ta ko nyo leches ni jo tune wi. Ni ginagwa kol akilo yat ka te sanes. Nin toladia dalonyo tsakatiata. Ko ya hunka. El ho kwet aseso wi wa hundia dalonyo ni nok chini pat tsakatia. Sa kon marno ya kanik tsakatiata. Yep.
Nas gwyn na labatman Arnold White snadaji. Oneida Language, gwyn o'ch sy'n dais ni tale, ne ta gwyn.
Kung pinwa na ito ni at yat dala at hadili wa pa ito na note na tela.
Negi ni ti hawa wanundum se blans wagil na te ni chat design des down. O gwyn na sa dronu da bit. No kia dronu da kwa gwyn ni sa yoko. Wagil e ki dim kili hun yun.
Pag pinwa ni chi ni o tik he o kya kwite humlong.
Wakin agwong gwyn na tunun.
Tanok chi no gani kilo ne kwini ala te kilion ya ni chi. He so ni ya kilo wi. Chok ni wa kya dawan chi ko makat panu tak pa na wa kata wa yata. Ne tone ni na wa kila kini ta kilion ya ni kaya o ka. But how come you didn't teach us? Look at what I had to go through just because I spoke Oneida. When you think about it, we should have. Kiwa.
Nesquitigan. Den lights go on after Guguna da Hawaii. Tagan a galahawin so kisaya da chat. So they lost one that she no so good.
You say we're not nothing. He says way like number 3. What do you have to say about it?
Well, when we went to school, we got strapped for speaking our language. So how are you going to read and write it? Every time you talk, you get a strap.
Well, I didn't go through there because I didn't go to school. I didn't start school here. I went to Fingal. But then all the white children, and the teacher used to give us a ride to school. They went by where we were staying. Give us a ride to school. But I know I couldn't understand why they wouldn't let the kids even speak their language outside this when they go to recess. That's their free time. But I heard that the teacher would go out there and get them and strap them even because they spoke it. Now that's their free time. They should be let alone to speak their language and play and talk the way they want, the way they know how. But I didn't go through that because I went white school. And I don't know how I learned it, but first thing I knew I was talking to, they had girls' side and boys' side, so I couldn't even talk to my brother. First thing I knew, I was speaking the language, and she had numbers up the board like this to add, not big numbers, 1, 2, 3, and you learned how to read it. You go 2, 3, and then 5, and 2 and 3 is 5, 5 and 2 is 7. You go right up that line and learn how to add it right like that. Going to white school was different, I think, because I didn't go till I was in, I think, grade 6 when we came back. And I went back to school out here. Sure, I spoke the language. They speak it outside with some of the kids that still spoke the language too. But they never got after us for speaking it. But I think I was kind of glad I did go to school off the res, because I had to learn. I didn't get strapped for speaking it when I went home. Or if I speak to my brother at school, at recess time, sometimes I get to see him. And then when Christmas came, we were going to white school, the teacher asked us if we knew how to do something, and if we knew a song we could sing in the language. And the mothers and fathers that went there, well, mostly was mothers that came to the school for Christmas concert. And the teacher had us sing in Oneida up at the front, and all the parents were happy, the ones that were there, that we sang in Oneida. I never had problems with being an Indian and speaking Indian anywhere because I wasn't raised here. But same with me, I didn't teach my kids the language. They all speak English. I don't know if, because we lived in a city. When we moved to the States, we lived in a city. There was no kids that could speak the language. There was some Indian kids that went to school, but they didn't speak their language either. So we just get thrown into a different language. If they were all French, I guess I'd be speaking French. No.
Hokka se. Mä tein sen, että siis sanottiin jo.
Jakin on do. Ja non do gadetaan takia dunkalin. Nuksi anan des roin jualan haga dononda.
Se kuolla niin se ei sanottiin jo. Det on jonka hati hiedon hei kada.
When tuidat madung goten. No kan ik tijd wezen, nee, kwaadon. Adi hiada kalo, madono da kutini.
Yeah, they could near teaching you getting it's got to be written now because there's so few of us. And when we're gone, we take it with us. Nikyo tale we kada ihe.
Yeah.
Kyle knows what that means now.
Well, at the church I go to.
Fia kuiti California no ni ngwara no lo na.
Yeah.
Na dokop ni si di segunda gwen do no da. Dana gun gakston sa it kun yo.
I know it's hard. Like we're getting forgetful.
Danon no don't go there so do heki wa. Ya tao don't kai tio ha sa gilu. Kan wa sen ne sa ga ik.
Talk about
This
stupid.
is Yagwa way is a cover not there.
You're the one that knows it. Talk about getting old and stupid. I get up sometimes. I say, oh, what did I get up for? What all right, you want to sit back down or you just want to walk around? After a while, I remember. But I don't forget to eat.
6 o'clock and it gets well at coffee. Okay.
Well, that's all we have for this week. So, y'all go give a.
Noksin nagan hotun yung gorgas. Hadi jik stone site when you had it noksin. Waski noksin sagila. I had a hell of a good ride getting there.
This is well, let's go.
Raskidi wagila nokti. Wakat sanonigi no less when you walk at a kalite kale. So when you walk I could still drive, even though I don't know if I'm going to pass my test.
Well, if somebody gives you right to do it, be easy.
That's good. When he took me going there, so you gave it.
Nee, niet van mij.
4 o'clock ook na. Ja, dan doen ze kieda.
Not me, it's usually about 5 or 6.
No, en dan gaat niet tegen 4 o'clock.
But I don't go to bed till midnight.
Nee, ik nog tot 9 o'clock. Dus je knak naast.
Nee, je niet. 10 o'clock, want dan gaat niet goed.
Not me. I stay up and read.
Ik know when so when you want to knak.